What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Chris Eubank Jr. Chris Eubank Jr. makes his prediction of Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo Alvarez in the unification at 168 pounds. He projects Canelo will knock out Billy Joe Saunders, and he says that he has the recipe to beat Canelo. All right, let's talk. Let me counterpunch. Let's see. Chris Eubank Jr. and Canelo Alvarez. I see a counter-punching manifesto by Canelo. Because unless the only hype, the only saving grace of Chris Eubank Jr. is that he's learned while training with Roy Jones Jr. how to slip punches, how to move, how to keep a steady rhythm in his footwork. I've been telling people for the longest, who can beat Canelo Alvarez? Probably nobody on paper, but except old Floyd. But I mean, who can beat him? Who has a better chance of beating Canelo? You know who? A boxer. Okay? A pure boxer or a boxer that has good footwork. Okay? When a guy is countering you and he's using his upper body and then he's inching forward, okay? With every weave and bob and move, and he's closing the gap to you like Canelo does. He does it and you don't know he's doing it. You know, the Danny Jacobs fight was a perfect example. Danny Jacobs he was on the outside jabbing, and Canelo was missing and slipping damn near every punch, almost every punch. And before you know it, bip, bip, there's the counter, because he's already got close enough to set up the counter, and basically he's creating his own traps by closing the distance. Okay, that's someone that can counter and set up traps, and Canelo does that very, very well. And if he can't hit you upstairs, he's going to go to your body. If you know something about Canelo Alvarez, he ends most combinations with hooks to the body. If you don't notice, he's not really necessarily a hedge hunter. He can catch you with a snappy shot upstairs, but he's targeting your body to break you down or to drop you. You know, it's a lot of guys get hit with that liver shot and they go down. Okay, they can't take it. You know, Rocky, hello. You know, but as far as Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't showed me that he has anything that Canelo will worry about. You know, that that shit there. No, that's not gonna. Canelo's gonna move, weave, counter, left hook, counter. You know, he's gonna. What's gonna happen? Chris Eubank is gonna commit to a punch. I see this clear as day. He's gonna commit to a punch. You know, and a lot of times it's hard to teach someone something new anyway. You know, I'm not doubting the great Roy, but what I'm saying is I'm doubting the possibility that Chris Eubank, if things don't go the way that he trained them to go, or how the game plan is, will he resort back to the same? I've seen it happen all the time. Arturo Gatti, to come to mind, where things are not happening the way they supposed to go because he's not following or not successful with a game plan. He reverts right back to what he knew. So if Chris Eubank Jr. does that, he's going to end up getting sopped, clocked, popped, dropped, bars. Okay, because fighting someone like Canelo, when, you know, Canelo's looking for you to overcommit. That's what counterpunchers do. They do it all the time. They want you to throw long, you know, or open your guard up. That's all they do. They're trap setters. Canelo's a trap setter. 100%. So when Chris Eubank Jr. does get mad and okay, Canelo's going to anticipate. There we go. Beep, beep, beep. You know, he's going to set those traps and he's going to know exactly what to do. And if Chris Eubank Jr., and I think Chris Eubank Jr. is tough, but he's going to need to be tough. I just see him getting beat up by someone like Canelo. And Chris Eubank hasn't really been in there with these type guys. And him predicting that Canelo will knock out Billy Joe, you know what that really tells me, though, honestly? I think that's a personal prediction. It's biased. Why? Because Billy Joe decisioned him. He gave him his first loss. He gave a lot of people their first loss. Billy Joe, he's been in there with a lot of good fighters. Okay, so, and his resume is better. But I think there's always been a rivalry between Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe, no doubt about it. See, this is what happens. In boxing, we run into these rivalries that doesn't involve fighting. That's the problem. If Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe should have fought 3 times. You know what I mean? Those are true rivalries. That means, hey, I'm talking stuff off of social media. I'm saying this about you, or it gets back to you. Hey, I said it's back, yada, yada, yada. There's bad blood, whatever. Let's settle it in the ring. Okay, let's, get the contract started. Call your promoter. I call mine. Let's do it. Right? Find a venue, date, money, purse. You know what I mean? That's how it used to be. Now we have more lip and less grip. That's what we have. But based on Chris Eubank, I think he's bitter, sour about that decision. I've seen that fight. It was a good fight between Chris Eubank Jr. and Billy Joe. But I think he made that decision because a lot of times you cheerlead for the fighter that you want to win, especially if that fighter has beat you. So I think it's a double incentive. For one, he gets to fight Canelo. If Canelo beats him, there won't be really no one left besides Caleb Plant. For two, he doesn't like Billy Joe because Billy Joe took his counterpunch. But anyway, that's my prediction and my counterpunch on Chris Eubank Jr. saying that Canelo Alvarez will knock out Billy Joe and I can beat him. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.